Live and direct, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Leadership Live. I'm excited, Dr. Natalie Forest, because this has been such a powerful, empowering, and exciting month when it comes to women's empowerment, women's leadership. Many folks in this community know we were one of the sponsors and partners of an event that happened just about a week or so ago to celebrate International Women's Day. And our partnership and affiliation with internationalwomensday.org is one that we covet. And something exciting happened, Dr. Natalie, and that's that you decided to invite several of the keynote speakers from that event to continue the conversation here today. So with that being said, Dr. Natalie, please just share with our audience, first and foremost, a little bit about the impact that these powerful, dynamic women are making on the world and how excited you are for this conversation that we're going to have for the next hour with them. Please, Dr. Natalie.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Mo. And it's amazing how when people come together, like-minded ideas start flowing, collaboration starts growing. And I think that is what International Women's Day was all about, especially the event that, of course, the Los Angeles Tribune was a strategic partner for, a 2-day event with magnificent experts, all women. We had amazing conversations. We had a very, very big impact, I would say, with that event. And it, of course, continues. And in order to keep that momentum going, to keep it growing, to keep it blossoming, we decided to invite 4 of the magnificent speakers to come on here today and share their ideas about leadership, about what it means to be a woman in this time and age, and just continue the conversation to inspire others, to collaborate with others, and to make sure we all understand that Women's History Month is not just the month. Women do exist all year long, and we do appreciate supporters that are non-women, such as you, Mo. It's very simple.
Excited. I'm excited, Dr. Natalie. I can't wait. With that being said, let's get the ball rolling and let's get this panel rolling. I'm excited because I want to learn. I want to take this time personally to be uplifted, inspired, and educated because these leaders are doing incredible things all around the world. So let's go ahead and roll in this exciting panel. And we're going to kick it off with Alicia Curry. Alicia, your last name reminds me of three-pointers. And just knocking it out of the park. So I'm going to give you the floor. Share with our audience what it is that you have been proudest of in recent years when it comes to being a woman, a leader woman, inspiring the world, inspiring the planet, making a difference. What changes have you made on this planet that you're proudest of? That's how we're going to get the ball rolling. Alicia Curry, please.
Oh, thank you so much, Mo. And thank you, Natalie, for the invite. I'm super honored to be here today. And that is a really great question because what I'm most proud of as a woman is raising really responsible, really connected children. So children who are going to go out into this world and make a positive impact. So that's what I am most proud of, the children that I have raised. And so right now they're 24, 19, and 14. And so entering into adulthood and really taking the seeds that were planted as children and moving forward. Now, as far as the impact that I'm having as well, I'm super, excited and honored to have moved myself from a place of low confidence and not really believing a lot in myself, having made that journey myself and with the support of so many people. And of course, I give honor to God for that too, to help me recognize and move myself through that. And then be able to look back and help other women who I can recognize are in that same struggle that I was in and help bring them up as well. So it wasn't just for me, but because I learned what I learned, I'm able now to help others make that transition and make that journey. But because I learned what I learned, I'm able now to help others
That's exciting. Thank you for sharing. And I think it's only apropos that we go from one Alicia to another Alicia. It's been a common theme, Dr. Forrest, that on this program we have lots of doubles, triples when it comes to names. I don't know why, but that just happens to be the way it works on this program. So, Alicia T, please go ahead, take the floor and share with this audience what it's been that you've been proudest of on your journey, on your path in life and in business that you've been able to inspire people with. Please, Alicia.
Yeah, I want to echo the other Alicia here. My kids, as a woman, that's one of those things where so my journey has been kind of an up and down crazy one. And we have 3 autistic children, and raising them to be successful young adults and, teenagers. And even I have one that's 7, which is crazy. But raising them to be, successful in their lives and do things that they enjoy to do and be successful in their own path is absolutely the biggest joy of my life. For myself, though, a big thing is learning to get in front of a camera and speak. I know it sounds crazy, but, I've always been the person to be behind the scenes. I've loved writing and typing and all that. And having the chance to get out there and speak in front of people has opened up such an amazing journey for me, because I've been able to meet so many women around the world that, I've been able to help inspire their journeys as well. And that's just been an incredible part of my journey. It's really seeing other people's, bloom in their journeys.
Exciting. Thank you for sharing to the 2 Alicias. And let's go ahead now to Pamela. Pamela, I'm excited to hear what you have to say about your work. What we know about each and every one of you is everyone here does incredible work to make this world a better place. And that's really what this program is all about, is highlighting individuals that are working to uplift, inspire, and educate. So Pamela, I'm excited to hear from you. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mo, and thank you, Natalie, for the invitation today. Natalie, to your point, women are here 36, 365, 727, 24, actually. It feels like 27 because we put in that extra little oomph, don't we? We just keep going. But as far as my journey goes, it's really coming from nowhere to someplace. And a lot of women on this planet have very little access to things and little of anything, if not nothing. And I think this is my journey and my story for the women out there who look at us and feel that we've accomplished so many things and we are totally rocking it. Yes, we are. And I think we deserve a pat on the shoulders for what we continue to do every single day as women here. But I want these women who have very little to know that what they need is clear thinking, clear heart, and the ability to go out and do what they need to do out in the world, because that's been my story. After leaving a primary relationship, living across the country by myself with 2 bags of clothes and a laptop, and just had a plan. I didn't know anybody, had very little money, and I had to figure it out, and I did. And I want this to be the thing that women on this planet who live in villages or have many children out there and they don't have access to money or resources can do the very same thing. I want people to see that they have what it takes, the power and the energy to spiral up, make miracles, if you will, because that's what it comes down to for a lot of the women on this planet. So it's as women, as wives, as entrepreneurs, as business leaders, as corporate leaders now, we have to take what we have and spiral it up into something fabulous. So I'm very glad to be here to be able to share that.
I love the message, Pamela, of expecting miracles. And I think that every human being should expect miracles in all facets of life. And with that being said, I'm going to give it now to Miss Smith, Lai Smith, who's going to take the floor and share with us her wisdom before we start the mastermind / panel here. Smith, please go ahead.
Hello, Mo. Thank you so much. And thank you, Natalie, for this invitation and this opportunity. And to the rest of the women on this panel, oh my gosh, it's just such an honor to be here in such great company. And I am Lee Smith. And what I am most proud of is fulfilling a dream. One of my first dreams was planted in my heart when I was 14 years old. And it was, when I get married and become a mom someday, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And I didn't get married until I was almost 30 years old. And it was another 2 years before I became a mom and stepped into that dream. And now my daughter is 19 years old. Yes, if you want to have fun with the math, go for it. My daughter's 19. She's off in college and independent. And being that role model for her is such an honor, such an amazing thing to see who she's blossoming into. And I do have a 26-year-old stepson as well. And he's a world traveler, and he finds ways, even through the pandemic and the challenges there, he finds a way to break out and see different parts of the world and encounter that. And that just enhances who he is too. So I'm super blessed to have two amazing children. And then I lost myself along the way in living that dream as a stay-at-home mom. And I spun down into a massive depression, and I wasn't even fully aware of it. And the moment I did become self-aware of it, I said, enough is enough. And I drew a line in the proverbial sand, stepped over it, and I said, you know what? I need to take care of me. I've given myself as a wife. I've given myself as a stepmom. I've given myself as a stay-at-home mom, but I haven't given myself to me. And I need to know who I am again. I am Lee Smith. Who is she when I look at her in the mirror? And so it begins with leading myself to fill my cup, and then out of that overflow, show up and serve in the world with excellence. And in a matter of 8 months of making that decision, I became a 2-time Amazon bestseller author. I became an award-winning speaker. I earned certifications from some of our top amazing leaders like Tony Robbins and Brendon Burchard. And now I'm taking my academic lessons and my life lessons and putting that together into a message out into the world to empower women and men that once you make a decision, because you always have a superpower of choice, but once you make that decision to improve your life, even by 1%, you're on to an amazing, amazing path. And things can be done, and they can be accomplished. And then we're meant to shine and be that light. And as Marianne Williamson says, that when we step out and shine, we give others permission to step out and shine in their own light too. And that's such a beautiful way to lead.
You know, I love that message, Lee. Thank you for sharing, because first and foremost, and I know we have a lot of business owners that are watching this and will watch it on the replay, and everyone here is a leader and in business in their own right. But first and foremost, we're all the CEO of Me Incorporated, right? And first and foremost, that's what we're the CEO of, and we can hire and we can fire accordingly. And with that being said, we're going to take a quick break, come back, and Dr. Natalie is going to lead the panel when we come back in about a minute or so.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
Awesome. And we are back with an amazing panel. And I want to thank you all because you all have challenges. What just came out are 2 things in your brief introductions, and I want to thank you for those brief introductions, is number 1, children, and number 2, challenges. So, those are crucial things for all of us. And I appreciated Lee also saying, stepson, so we don't have to have our own biological children necessarily, but challenges. As a woman in particular, how do you overcome the challenge either about leaving a relationship and moving across the country, or about autism, or about depression, or about low confidence? What steps have you taken to overcome and master those challenges? Alicia Curry, can I start with you? Would you mind starting us off, and then we'll just try and have a conversation about it?
Yes. Oh man. So first it comes self-awareness. You have
Mhm.
to actually recognize that you have the power to change things. I mean, if you have no self-awareness to even know that things aren't just happening to me, that I have some level of control over this, and the level of control that we have is our attitude, how we see things, how we view our situation, and we can choose then to make the necessary shifts in our own minds, in our own the way we see things, to continue to move forward. Because if we keep kind of staying in the same cycle, we'll stay in the same cycle, right?
Absolutely. Alicia Trotwine, can I ask you to chime in? Because on the one hand, what Alicia Curry just said sounds so simple and easy, right? Well, just, self-awareness. And I know it's not that easy, right? But it's like, okay, just become self-aware and then, you change your perspective. Alicia, you have a very specific experience as well for yourself and for others. And you volunteered to say, you're working on speaking in front of people. So what do you say to Alicia Curry? Just have some self-awareness and go from there. I'm making it sound funnier than it is.
I know.
I mean, it is one of those things I always tell my husband, simple does not always mean easy. That some things, it's the smallest thing that you can fix that will make the biggest change, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy to do. I mean, I went through years of burnout trying to manage. I have, my kids are, my stepdaughter is 19. I've raised her since she was 4. But then we have our own that are 15, 14, and 7. And I remember when the girls were little, I mean, they were little whirlwinds, what my mother called them, because they were just so busy. I mean, they were 5, 16 months and a newborn. And my husband was working 60 plus hours a week. How do you find time when you're literally the only one taking care of 3 children? And I got to a point where I was burnt out and I was like exhausted. There are parts of it I don't remember. The kids will tell me, do you remember this? I'm like, no, did that happen? Because I don't remember it because I was living in survival mode. Mm-hmm. And I learned that, you do have to carve it out. Sometimes you have to be creative. For me, it was little stuff. It was, okay, you know what? I'm going to hide in the bathroom an extra 5 minutes, and it doesn't, I can pick up a book, get on my phone, whatever, but 5 minutes extra, carving those little time, making a routine for the kids so that they were in bed by a certain time so that I knew I had so much time to myself after they went to bed and before I went to sleep, and doing those little things to carve out ways to, make time for yourself, to be self-aware, to learn yourself, because it's hard. It's hard because you want to give it all to the kids. And, echo what was said earlier, you can't give everything if there's nothing to give.
Right.
You have to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Pamela, you want to chime in because your experience was not necessarily, being overwhelmed by the children running around, but you also ended a relationship and moved across with not that much stuff at hand.
No, I put my daughter in university, said goodbye to her, said goodbye to a marriage and a home and all the things that went along with it, because I knew that there was more. And I felt called to do that. It sounds like a spiritual experience I'm talking about here, but I think what everybody here is talking about is in fact a spiritual experience, answering the call that we have on our life and putting the trust and faith that it's going to be okay. I mean, I had no idea how this was going to turn out. I had no connections or contacts, but I was connected in a particular way. I was connected to an ineffable source of energy that spoke to me. That still small voice to this day speaks to me. I plug in every morning. I do nothing without checking in. It's always there. And I know some people listening might say, what is she talking about? But I have to tell you, this energy, this force, this connection took me from nowhere with nothing across the country and built me up, created a business, created friends, created money, created all that I needed to continue to build. And this is the thing that I want to teach people. I mean, for those that are ready to hear it, this is a real thing. It's closer than the breath on your face. And people just are banging their heads needlessly. I banged my head for a long time, and then it was time to stop it. I found it. I teach it, and I teach it at a certain level.
Mhm.
So to me, yes, I have a daughter, and you know what this woman said? She's a woman now. You know what this woman said to me? She says, "Mom, I don't know how you did that. I don't know if I could have done that. Just gone into the desert, basically." And I'm incredibly proud of you. And for no other reason, if that's all that happened, that's the most beautiful thing for me.
Mhm.
That's the reason I do it, so she can see, and others like her can see.
I want to come back to the spiritual aspect and, moving across a country or moving across an ocean, depending on who you are. I did the ocean, you did the country. But Lee, to you as well, we're talking, of course, about leadership, and we're talking about that, just change your perspective. You mentioned that you ended up in a depression. So how do you get out of a depression and just say, oh yeah, I'm going to change my perspective? And again, we know it's not that easy. I'm just trying to make it a little lighter. And as Alicia Trout once said, easy doesn't mean simple. We often forget that. So Lee, what helped you out of that depression other than making a decision?
Right. Well, yeah. Well, like Alicia mentioned in the very beginning, is that self-awareness.
Mhm.
Because when I did become self-aware that I was depressed, my first question was, how long has this been going on? And I thought back and I could remember the starting point, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's been over 2 years. But I hid that even from myself in a sense, because I put on a beautiful face. I was living whatever best life I could with the world of social media. Yes. And I admitted I was putting my highlights on. I wasn't going to put my negative drama that I was encountering. And so there was that moment of, how long has this been going on? And then, yes, that decision of enough is enough. And then realizing, well, then what will I choose from this point forward? And it was the end of a year. So with the new year approaching, I said, okay, there's a new year. We have that New Year's resolution feel to it. And I'm not big on resolutions, but I thought, okay, that change, it's a great time for change. I'm going to choose to go on a quest to figure out what makes me happy. Because when I heard my intuition say, well, what does make you happy, Lee? I couldn't come up with an answer, and I was frustrated with that. And I said, that's it. I need to figure out what does make me happy. And I don't know if I can do this entirely on my own. I want something to guide me. I want a word to anchor me. And I had heard of friends picking words of the year before. I had never done that. And I said, that's where I'm going to start. So what word would help me along? And I chose the word laugh, because I couldn't remember when was the last time I genuinely, heartfully laughed. And I said, all right, laugh will be my word for that year. And then I'm going to find anything and everything that will let me laugh. And three big activities I picked. Number one, because I still had some physiological depression that I was dealing with. I was on the corner of the couch. I watched Friends. It's my favorite sitcom. I can watch it 100 times over, know all the lines, and I still laugh. So knowing that could be a good tool for me, I thought, okay, we'll start with that. I was very blessed and fortunate that at the time that I was doing this, there was a local comedy troupe who put on an improv show every Friday. So practically every Friday, I was down at the local theater getting my laugh on. And then I knew there were people who had an amazing sense of humor. I didn't believe myself to have a good sense of humor, but I knew people who had an amazing sense of humor. And I thought, if I can just get within their physical space and feel some of that energy, maybe some of that will rub off on me. And after several months of doing that, that's when I started. I wouldn't say it totally healed the depression, but it started pulling me out. And then I moved on to my personal development growth tools to help me the rest of the way.
Interesting. See, I use animated movies to make me laugh. The little penguin waddling around.
Right.
Pamela, go. You got that too?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Whenever I check in with myself, what do I need? And there's a whole lineup of things of those animated movies. Like I was just talking about the Croods before I got on the show. It's like there's just so much good stuff in there that we as adults can really take and apply to our lives. The metaphors are just rife in those animated movies. So it's not just for children, it's for us too.
Absolutely.
I often think it's more for us. The children sort of like, yeah, and then they want to go on to, adult stuff. Now, when it comes to laughter or realizing what you need, each of you needed something else. And yet, and I know, Pamela, you left the relationship, but it also seems that all of you needed some support. And I want to just focus for a moment on the idea of support, because I think we often forget that. We're sometimes so rigid either to think we have to do it alone, or we're weak if we're asking for help, or, it's Women's History Month, so we don't need the guys, or whatever it is. We've got all of that stuff going on. So how important is it to, number one, have support, and number two, where do you get the support? Like I'm thinking about, you're not confident, or you're so busy, like Alicia Trotwine mentioning, your husband's working like 60 hours. I mean, how can he support you at that point? Right? That's like a logical thought, or however you want to phrase it. So how do you get that support? Who do you ask? How do you do it? Because I think that's a huge step to self-leadership. Who wants to start us out? Can I start Alicia Curry again? Because
you're going this way.
A little light of your really deep sense of accuracy there.
Oh, support is so necessary. And one of the things that I noticed when I didn't have a lot of confidence, and I was in that, much like Alicia had mentioned, I wanted to speak on stage and I wanted to do all these things, but I didn't feel like I could, was actually finding communities of people who knew more than I did, that were willing to support me in my journey, in my vision. And yes, I had support at home with my husband, because he allowed me to be able to explore what it is I needed to do. But finding those like-minded communities, those women, that were powerful women that I can get around, that could mentor me, and that I can see the vision for where I want to be and continue to move in that direction. That was invaluable.
I got to call you on a word. Because you just said something that piqued my interest right there. I don't know if anybody else heard that. But you said, my husband allowed me. And that just piqued my word, because I was like, hold on a second.
Well, yeah, not he allowed me, but because he was there supporting financially and stuff, it allowed me to do that. So yeah.
and I know that's what you meant. I just want to make
you just want to clarify. Yeah.
Right. Because you're confident. I mean, you're superwoman at this point. I've seen you, I've heard you. And at the same time, it is this permission base. First we got to give ourselves permission. And then if we have supporters, they help us transform that permission. So that's just awesome. Yes.
Yeah. Don't get me started on that whole self-permission thing. Oh, yeah. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. It's not easy either, right?
Yeah.
Pamela, what do you think about support? Because you left and moved and said, bye-bye, everybody. See you later.
Yep. It started in two ways. As I started to talk about before, it was my connection to my other self in source. So that was the first place I knocked to get that support and the guidance. Then it was who. It wasn't how, because I didn't have the big picture yet. And you know how we get stalled out by asking, how are we going to do something? Yes. Well, we don't know how we're going to do something. To Alicia's Curry point, you look for the who's. Who is out there that's doing what I want to do, and how do I align myself with those other people? And that's exactly what I did when I got here. I looked on I think it was meetup groups, who's doing what, who's saying what, who's talking about what. Then I ended up in a women's entrepreneurial group, and then it went from there. And then I got more discerning as things started to open up as to the specific who's, meaning masterminds and mentors and such. And I became more and more clear. But my support, and I'm going to keep going back to this because it's so important. It's the support that you are getting from your presence. And here's a funny little thing I'm going to add here. So, people are going to freak out. I call my beloved magic I am presence, because it is doing the work I just follow and guide, because it's never led me astray. And it takes me to the who. Natalie, I'm in front of you. I'm in front of the two Alicias and Ali here. I mean, it pulls you to where you need to be. Mm-hmm. You just have to trust.
Yes, the law of attraction. Here we go. All right, law of attraction. Lee, quick question to you on that one, because you volunteered the depression, and everybody else around you either had a sense or was going with the let's play, we're all happy. How did you get support from there?
I think when I actively pursued people who had an amazing sense of humor, and I said, I just need to be around them. I just need to feel that positive energy. I started networking in my local area. And when I found these different networking groups and found these amazing people, I thought, wow, what an amazing community that I live in. And after a few months of watching friends and going to the local theater and surrounding myself with these positive people, I felt my joy coming back. I like to say it broke through the darkness of my heart. And it was like liquid gold just sliding up and then coming into my left ear and saying, well, Lee, now that I'm here, what do you want to do with me? And that sparked the essence of who I am to start dreaming again and think, wow, what an amazing question. Joy, you're back in my life. What do I want to do with you? I don't want to keep you for myself. I want to now spread you out with others. How exactly am I going to do that? And again, knowing that, yes, I may be strong-willed and independent, but no, this is not something I want to do by myself. And then tapping into these amazing communities of women. There were leadership women communities. There were just networking and socializing for the positivity and encouragement communities. There are others who are entrepreneurs. And I just tapped into all of them and thought, well, what can I receive and learn? And what can I contribute as well? Mm-hmm. And just taking and giving and taking and giving and continuing to reciprocate that allowed me to feel the support from them and then step into my own leadership and now become the support for others. And what an amazing place to be.
Yeah. And then you add on top of all of that, the finding the interconnection, the magic self, the perspective, the support. Then you add autism to the whole spectrum. How do you find support in that, Alicia?
Yeah, so when I started our journey, I mean, I struggled to find that connection with other people. I really did, because, well, at the time, this is many years ago, obviously, but at the time, there wasn't a lot of information out there about parenting multiple children on the spectrum. It was, like you might have someone who has, they have a boy or whatever, they have one child, and then parenting girls, going through puberty. These are things that we have to consider. I mean, there's a lot of emotions, just any kid that doesn't have any diagnosis whatsoever going through puberty. And I wanted this information and I couldn't find it. And so, I reached out to as many as I could, and started connecting, and I wound up making the community. Mm-hmm. Because there wasn't one. And, for parents that have multiple children on the spectrum, there isn't time to go meet up at a group. There isn't time to go, oh, hey, honey, I'm going to go for an hour, go meet up with the gals. There's not that time. And so you have to figure out some way to do it and in your capacities. And the great thing about social media is that is one of the bright sides, is it connected us, and I have seen, so many communities now grow from that, from all different, like you said, the mastermind groups, the women only group, the parenting groups, specific diagnosis, all these specific groups, and connecting with women all around the world. That's what makes me, because there might not be someone in my exact community that has 3 autistic kids, but guess what? There's people throughout the world that do. Mm-hmm. And when you start connecting with these individuals and you start sharing your stories, you find little ways to help each other, because there's something I might know that someone else might not. Somebody else that, has raised all their kids and all their kids are grown might be, well, oh, we did this and this worked, and sharing those little stories creates this community for everyone. And we're able to do it now with technology that we couldn't do before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, it's been great to embrace that, because yes, technology can be a problem too, don't get me wrong, but it definitely connects us in such a great way. And, especially for those of us, because I received my autism diagnosis late in life. I've always been autistic. I just, grew up in the 80s. So that was not a diagnosis you got back then. You barely got any diagnosis back then. And, but, I know I was, struggled with connecting with other people. That was something I always struggled with. And once I received my diagnosis, it was like, okay, this is why. And then learning how to kind of make those connections. Okay, this is where the missing link was, where I was trying to connect and it wasn't making that connection. And then sharing that information with others, because I've always learned if someone has a question, there's chances are there's 100 more people behind them that has the same question.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to ask it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's so funny, because you all had the experiences where you were challenged and you looked for support. And in that, you had to take leadership. And you just said that, Alicia, you had to create the sort of community yourself. Now, Pamela also added something to it that I know you all had to go through, and that is discernment. Right? So initially you're like out there, you're either depressed or you're trying to figure out your perspective. You're like trying to pick yourself up, and then you get support, and then you have to start discerning. I'm going to start with you, Alicia Troutwine, because you're working with something that is a diagnosis. And I'm assuming that there are some people where you have to apply a lot of discernment when you're talking about, collaborations and so forth. So how have you learned to discern more who you work with, who you collaborate with, and what leads you to that decision?
Yeah, a lot of it is the conversation. It's that connection beforehand, learning, who you want to make those connections with, because there are tons of people you can connect with. I mean, that's the reality of it. But you have to find someone that aligns with what you believe, what your goal is in life, what you're planning towards. And you don't want to take a step back. You always want to be taking a step forward. And, it's one of those things where we've all made those mistakes where we've not connected correctly, or we've connected the wrong person. It kind of took us back a little bit, right? We learned from the wrong people, we learned the wrong information, and then we're like, oh no, I did this. And it's a lot of times it's trial and error. I mean, it really is. You have to learn, you have to take that first step. First step's always the hardest. It's one of those things, you have to take that first step, move forward a little bit. No, you're probably going to fall down a few times, and keep going. And even when you get to a point where you think that you have mastered something, there's still more to learn, and you're still going to get knocked down, and you have to keep learning from those things. And it's also being willing to listen. I mean, that's just one of those things. You have to be able and willing to listen to others, to take in the information, discern it for yourself, and decide how to apply that to your life, or if you apply that to your life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Pamela, you brought the word up, discernment. So what did you learn, and how did you lead yourself through discerning who to trust, who not to trust, and all of that?
Well, just like Alicia brought up, a lot of it had been trial and error in the beginning. And then I became really clear as to what lane I wanted to be in and to operate and to grow in. And that sort of knocked out a whole lot of people, to be honest with you, in a nice and loving way. I mean, this is not a physical thing, but it really did set your eyes forward and in a certain way, and to not pay attention to certain things, because when you're not clear, you tend to keep moving and being pushed around. It's called the Bronwyn theory, that it's a theory in physics that something comes along and knocks you this way, and then the next thing comes along and knocks you that way. And you see people who do this because they're not discerning on a particular goal forward. So I had to find my North Star. And there are a lot of amazing things out there. There are a lot of incredible people out there, but I only have so much time. So I have to keep coming back to center. And that really helps with my discerning, because I mean, several times a day, I want to go off over here or go off over there, or someone's talking, I have to listen to that. So I'm always discerning. I'm always bringing myself back to center. Not an easy thing to do, but that's why clarity really helps sort of focuses you in on that one.
Absolutely. It's a shiny object syndrome, right? It's like, whoa, look over here. There's another. Wow, look, it's
That's
so
right.
pretty.
That's right. That's right.
Alicia Curie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love what Pamela said. Clarity, absolutely. And knowing yourself, knowing who you are, and really understanding what it is what your goals are. Because you can easily get lured into a whole lot of things going in the wrong direction, because everybody's program sounds great, everybody's trying to pitch you on something, and everybody thinks you need what they're selling. And so
Look at all
really,
these lobby heads.
yeah, yeah. But when you start, like Pamela says, having clarity about who you are and what your vision is and what you really want to accomplish and achieve, then you start, no, 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 yes, 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 no. You're able to say yes to the right things and no to the things that don't serve you anymore.
I want to follow up because I also know that you have to leave a few minutes early for another show. So when you say saying no, I have learned, heard, observed that saying no is difficult for a lot of people, especially women.
Is that people
So
pleasing?
yeah, so how do you do that? Not just the shiny objects, but moms, wives, daughters. How do you say no in the midst of, I don't know, chaos at home? Mom needs you. The child just fell down. How do you learn how to discern in that, in that kind? I know yours are older, but I'm like thinking about my life. So,
Yeah.
how do you do that? How do you learn how to say no and not feel like you're a what?
Right. Again, knowing yourself. Because if like I knew I was a people pleaser, I'm a recovering people pleaser, right? I knew I was a people pleaser. I knew that I didn't say no because I didn't want other people to not think I was nice, for other people to be disappointed. You have to be clear, again, to clarity on your motives for saying yes. Why am I saying yes to this? And I am miserable and I'm complaining and I'm whining through the whole process to do this for you. And it wasn't serving me, So really understanding, why am I saying yes to this? Is this really the direction I want to go with? Am I really going to lose a relationship over saying no? Because if I lose a relationship because I didn't want to do this with this person, what kind of relationship did we have in the first place? So it's really being clear on, why am I saying yes to this? And does it really, really light me up and serve me? Now, if someone really needs help, if they need they've fallen and they need help, that's not a thought about,
Right.
Yeah, you pick them up. Yeah.
is this serving me? No, you go help. If you have the capacity to help somebody and they need help, go help them. But if they keep calling you and saying, whining and complaining, oh, my boyfriend left and blah, 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 I need money, I need this, blah, 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 and you keep feeling like you have to give them because, well, they're in trouble. No, you're not helping them. You're actually enabling them. So are you an enabler, or are you actually really serving them at that point? So I said a whole lot of stuff in all kinds of different directions, but hopefully some of it made sense.
Oh, it all did to me. I'm like, we're all doing this.
No, I'm nodding.
Yeah, we've all been there, right? It's like sometimes you just act, and sometimes you have the time to take a breath and say, whoa, hold on. This person's calling for the 8th time. Now they want this. They really don't want to borrow. They just want. So, but then being strong enough, as you say, to say, hold on a second. Am I going to lose this? Then what is it worth? So very interesting. Lee, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Yes, I would definitely love to echo that clarity absolutely has to come first. Clarity on, like Alicia said, knowing who you are and knowing what you want. Like initially in recognizing my depression. And it's like, well, Lee, what does make you happy? And my answer then was, I don't know. I couldn't come up with a clue. And so now recognizing what does make me happy. And if you have conversations with people and you ask them what makes you happy, you'll find they tend to answer with the things that don't make them happy. Well, I know it's not this and I know it's not that, but they won't necessarily give you the specifics of, well, what does make you happy? And so knowing that clarity, where your values are, what matters most to you, what's important in your life, what do you want to experience? For me, it's deeply connected relationships. I wanted to build collaborations with other business owners. I wanted to pursue a dream of speaking and teaching others how to have positive self-talk, how to dream, and then learn how to turn those dreams into setting goals that become actionable plans. And now they're achieving these things and celebrating along the way and doing it in a way that doesn't overwhelm or send them down the burnout road. And once I got super clear on that, it did become easy to say yes or no. And I've heard the term, it's become popularized, FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. And I've felt that before too, where different trainings or different social opportunities or travel opportunities and different things like that, where I wanted to say yes to everything, but knowing I'm one person, I can't say yes to it all. So then how do I get away from that FOMO feeling? Because I really don't like that feeling of missing out. And I was blessed by a wonderful girlfriend who taught me JOMO, which is the joy of missing out. Because there's always a choice in moment to moment where we can say yes or we can say no. And yes is going to take you down one path and no is going to take you down another path. And which one do you really want? Maybe you want the no path and that's okay. Maybe you want the yes path and that's okay. So I've learned to say no a lot more and turn that FOMO into JOMO, because that no becomes a bigger yes for me. And now I get to experience the joy in what I'm doing. I don't have to worry about guilt or feeling that I'm missing out on something because I said yes to something that really matters most to me. So I hope everybody else will take that on too. Don't worry about FOMO. Take on the JOMO.
Yep.
I like JOMO. And I want to just hand it over for a minute to Alicia Curry, because as I mentioned, you have to leave a little early. So we're all still going to talk a little bit longer, but since you have to leave, what are your recommendations for women and men out there who are trying to find clarity? Because we keep talking about clarity, and once you have it, it's great. Once you have your vision, it's great. How do you find clarity? What are your recommendations for our audience?
Oh, that's great. So one of the things that I recommend most is taking some assessments on yourself. Like that to me is a foundational thing. There are so many out there that you can take, but when you start to take certain assessments, you can find a through line, because all of them are different, but you can start finding a through line of very specific traits that you have. And then instead of like leaning away from them, like, oh, but I didn't want to be that, like really lean into it and try to understand, how is this benefiting me? Because so many people, they come out, well, because I'm certified in a bunch of different assessment tools. And so people say, well, I want to know my strengths and weaknesses. I don't look at them as strengths and weaknesses. It's more of, how can we see your strengths, and you may have some blind spots. So some people will see some of your strengths, they might see them as weaknesses, but you have to be able to kind of reframe how other people are looking at how you do what you do. I heard shiny object syndrome thrown around earlier. And some people can seem like they have shiny object syndrome, but it might just be that they are very random and they just haven't been able to understand how to use that to their advantage. Like they can take in a lot of opportunities at the same time, where someone else has to be very focused on one particular thing. That doesn't mean that that's a weakness for you, because you take in all these different opportunities and someone else is trying to tell you you need to be focused. It's about, how is this now going to work for me? And so I would genuinely suggest getting some coaching from someone who really understands how to take those strengths and those results of yours and really help you get a deeper understanding of yourself. And that helps bring some self-awareness to yourself as well. Because when you understand the strengths, you can understand some of your blind spots. And then, your coach can help navigate you in the right direction. But again, find the right coach to work with. Not just everyone who's a coach is the right coach for you.
True. And I love how you said, there's like a common thread, because I always talk about the hidden power of patterns. There are some constants in our lives. Thank you so much, Alicia.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good luck with the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. So what are you ladies saying? So she was just saying strength, weaknesses, patterns. How do you find clarity? Because we've all talked about it. Clarity, Pamela, you mentioned the magic self. Alicia, you said, once I had the diagnosis, I was able to say, okay, now this. So how do you find the clarity? Because we keep throwing that around. Pamela.
So Alicia alluded to it. It's inquiry. We have the answers, and we don't always trust ourselves. We are the last to trust ourselves. So that's why it's good to have either an accountability person, mentor, coach, what have you, that can see you answer the question. So finding really good, strong inquiry questions, deep inquiry questions, answer it. And they can see you, because you can't see yourself. You can't see the expression on your face, or when the passion hits, your body changes. So all of it is part of the answer. We don't allow ourselves to keep the answer, because we think we should be focused on something else based on what our tribe or our parents said or society says. So we allow it to go. Meanwhile, somebody else could stop you because they can see the joy that overtook you when the answer came up, and keep drilling down into the why, and just until there are no more whys, there you have it. The bare nugget is left for you. And at that point, it's up to you whether or not you will accept the truth of it, right? The hard one, it's whether or not you accept the truth.
Man, I have loved this incredible deep conversation. I've just been sitting back, taking notes, listening to all of these thought leaders. And we're about to wrap up the program. But before we do that, we're going to give each of our guests the full floor to share their final thoughts with our audience. Let's start with Alicia. Alicia, please, the final floor to share your final thoughts is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that we can all come back to on this is that taking that moment for self-awareness, that we have to dive deep into who we are to figure out what our likes are, what makes us laugh, what makes us tick, how, to trust ourselves. We have to dive deep into that before we can ever help others. And that includes our family, our friends, our children. We have to take a moment to really figure out who we are. And then once we do, we have to start trusting ourselves. And like we said before, being able to say no. Because as women, that is probably the hardest thing we can do, because we're all kind of taught really that, be people pleasers and we want to make everybody happy. And saying no isn't a mean thing. Saying no is knowing your boundaries, knowing who you are and what you're able to do and still be able to thrive. And sometimes it just means saying no, and that's okay. And so, yeah, it's really learning to trust ourselves and discover who we are, and then start sharing that.
I love that lesson, and I think it applies to everyone in life, in business. Set proper boundaries, right? It's okay to say no. You don't need to say yes to every opportunity. I loved what was alluded earlier in the conversation. When you know yourself, you know what's right for you. You know what's not right for you. The ancient Greeks used to say, know thyself for a reason. And they also would say that an unexamined life is a life not worth living. So I love how this conversation just naturally went into such an introspective place. With that being said, Lee, please take the floor and share your final thoughts.
Thank you so much. Well, I just want to share that in getting clarity, I believe we have what I call the 3 G's, that we have genius, we have gifts, and we have greatness in each of us. And so when we can sit with ourselves for a moment, genius, what comes easily to me when it comes to knowledge or way of thinking around the world? Gifts are more mobility. When you're moving through things, if it's dancing or art or taking a walk, or maybe you're an athlete in some way, those are some of the gifts. And the greatness, it's the essence of who you are. And so when you can think about, well, what am I really good at? Or what comes easy to me that seems to be a challenge for others? That taps into part of the true wonderful person that you are. And when you can get clear on that, it starts to become a building block of, well, what makes me happy? How do I want to feel and experience my day? And then that sparks the imagination and gets us dreaming like, well, my perfect day then would be something like this. And when you can write it out and see, then you create that clear, desire, valuable picture for yourself. And then the challenge is go live it. No matter what, go live it, because it's something that was planted in you. So you're meant to be that and do that. And when you get to do that, trust me, life is super, super amazing.
Thank you for sharing your final words with this program. Pamela, please.
Well, these ladies have hit the nail on the head with everything that they've shared here. And what I want to cap off saying here is just fall in love with yourself. This life that you were given is sacred. Fall in love with it. If you don't love it, find out why. Have someone help you excavate the things that are holding you in place, shackling you in unhappiness and regret and resentment and all of those heaviness. Find it, because we only have one shot at this. We all only have so many Saturdays left. I know I do. I'm the days are going so quickly on this planet. And I love myself. I love my days. I mean, it just sounds so trite, but isn't that what we are in fact called to do? Love what you are given to do. Don't just show up wherever you are and just full of resentment and hate. Love the thing. If you don't love the thing, create the thing to do, because your energy affects the rest of the world. It's the butterfly effect, just as we have here today.
I love that message, and I love how you're saying that. And some people, they hesitate to share that message, Pamela. Some people think, oh, well, if I say that people should love themselves, it might not be so appealing. But I love the fact that you have the courage to say the truth, and that's what we need to do. And it doesn't mean go be a narcissist, right? No. It doesn't mean go paint a picture of yourself and put it, in every room in your house. But it means appreciate the journey, love who you are, love the imperfections of your life, quote unquote. And so I love that message, Pamela. With that being said, Dr. Natalie, please, we'd love to hear the final words from you and just your assessment of this program before we wrap up. Dr. Natalie Forest, please.
Well, thank you, Mo. Thank you, ladies. As always, what an honor to be with you. So many deep secrets and interesting facts shared. And I think what is most important about our program, as usual, is the reality of it, that we all face challenges. We all learn in different ways to overcome them. And there are certain patterns on how we do that. And it starts with know thyself, love thyself, embrace yourself. That's what Mo and I talk about a lot. And that is where it all starts. And then you can get the clarity, you get support, you get the tribe together, you get more people together. And in the end, what came to me earlier today was that we all are the conductors of our own lives. And that means when we reclaim our power and we step up as leaders onto that podium and we start picking which instruments are going to play next and how they're going to play, loud, soft, in what symphony, we're there to help arrange that symphony of our lives. And I think that came out very, very clear today in this panel. And I'm just grateful to be able to host and co-host with Mo so we get more of this message across.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of the remarkable thought leaders for being a stand and making a difference on this planet, and for sharing your message with this community. We look forward to inviting you back so we can continue embracing the journey, as Pamela eloquently put it. That being said, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.